So there we go. Whew. Now, Russian isn't even on offer in Sophie's school. Of course, in the past, Russian was more than on offer. It was really expected as an obligatory subject. Now, it's not. It's not obligatory, and also it's not even all that popular. So she's got Spanish, and to be honest with you, you are actually more likely to have contact with Russian in Poland than you are with Spanish. Spain is well, unfortunately, with getting hard. And don't get this wrong. If you're Spanish here, don't take this badly, because I do like Spain, and I have fun with Spanish people. I enjoy my Spanish contacts a lot. But let's be honest and say that Spain didn't come off very well in the recession. It came off really badly in the recession, and a lot of their investments into Poland, a lot of the business they were doing in Poland, evaporated on them because their lines of credit dried up. And so, whereas you used to see Spanish folk around in Poland quite a bit, some of them you've seen on this channel, friends of mine from Spain, singing Amapola and stuff like that. If you want to look it up, those guys don't come here now. I mean, there. This is Russia, not Poland. They don't come to Eastern Europe generally now, because their lines of credit, they all dried up, and they haven't really wetted up again. So you're not likely to use it in business as much as you were likely to 5 or 6 years ago. How things are with Portuguese, I have no idea, but my first Portuguese, I never had a Portuguese client yet in Poland. And the first prospect of a Portuguese client to Poland actually came today, but it's only a prospect. So actually it was an email, which, because I'm non-exec in Poland now, passed on to somebody else to deal with. But my first real sniff of Portuguese business or Portuguese, even Portuguese speaking, including Brazil, business in Poland in 20 years. So don't hold your breath to do business. Whereas obviously bang next to Poland, even in the Kaliningrad area with a border to Poland, or if not then with Belarus and Ukraine, you can use Russian just as easily, as they're both the countries bordering Poland. You've got, across your border, you've then got a territory that extends to further than Japan, all using Russian. And you'd be kind of nuts to ignore it if you're Polish, but they do. So they are nuts, unfortunately. They get very nutty when it comes to the subject of Russia. They get very paranoid. And even if Russians were their enemy, which they're not, you would think, would you not, that would be every reason to learn the language. When I started learning languages as a little boy, gosh, this is becoming a meander, isn't it? But when I started learning languages as a little boy, I say little, I was 13 or 15, wasn't I, when I started learning Russian. But at that time we were worried, really. We had all of these protect and survive stupid videos of the government talking about nuclear war. What happens, you've got to get in your inside toilet under the stairs, where you're supposed to have got lots of baked beans stored, and put your bed up next to you or some shit like that. Obviously it's not going to do a great deal of good. Raymond Briggs, what was the name of his book? Was it When the Wind Blows or something? I'm not sure. Raymond Briggs took the piss out of this Something Chronic, and he did well, because obviously that's what it deserved to have happen to it. But that's the time I grew up in, and little kids were genuinely frightened, thinking little kids, because I'm not talking about the people that only lived for crackerjack pencils, thinking kids were genuinely frightened. of the possibility that their little lives could come to an untimely end by Russians dropping bombs on us. And sitting there in West Block as I was learning Russian, I envisaged, well, is it possible that one of these days, while we're having a lesson like this, the Red Army could break in through the door and suddenly say "Ruki Vierch" to all of us? Yeah? And would it matter to them if they did that I speak Russian, or was starting to speak Russian, or not? These thoughts genuinely went through my juvenile mind. We don't live in that world now, thankfully. A lot of water has flown down the Neva since then, and up the Ob, and up other places as well, and down other places. And we live in a different world. Russia's still armed to the teeth, of course, as is America, but the dialogue is on a rather more stable basis, let's say, at least between Russia and the West. Obviously there's a bit of posturing goes on from time to time, but we basically seem to like each other, which is okay. And why not? There's plenty to like here. I'm not saying that that we're misguided, but the problem is that the ones who are misguided are the Poles that are still living in this kind of Cold War mentality. But whereas I, knowing that the Russians were painted as our enemy, was actually attracted more to learn the language because it was forbidden fruit, the Poles seem to actually go the other way. Even when they're encouraged to learn it, they don't want it. They think they're our enemies, therefore we're not going to learn their language. And they also think that if they do try to learn it, it'll be easy anyway, so they can always do it if they need it. Which is partly true and partly not true, because Poles have a rather good tendency of speaking Russian quite badly. They do have a pronounced accent. It's pronounced psh, 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 psh. But oh dear, oh, that pancake's coming back out again, in gaseous form. So basically I can't remember how I got onto this meander, but I kind of got into a point where I was meandering about why I started learning Russian. Before that we had Marina Rocha, didn't we? Was there a point to it all? Does it matter? There's like, Oktybrina, that's what it was. It was about Octoberists. A normal word like that in a different language can, you look in the dictionary and you'll say, well, yes, Oktyabrskaya, relating to October. That on its own will make you think, okay, it's about a month. So what? So then you need to get into the higher level of understanding a bit about the culture. Then you know why. You start to know why there is a reason why a street might be named after that particular month. All over the world you've got streets named after particular dates, and in certain countries they don't say why. You're simply expected to know it as part of your general education. Cafe Megapolis, big city, that must refer to Moscow, although there is actually an Eiffel Tower and a woman dressed in 1920s French clothing with a rather nice turn of calf. I must admit I'm a big calf fan. I do like it when the difference between the knees of a woman and the calf, and then the difference again to the ankle underneath, especially if the ankle comes out a little bit. So you've got a number of turns or curves going in and out as you go down that leg. It's better than having it like almost in a straight line like some people have got. There's one bang on cue, for example. I don't mean her any offence, but she had that kind of look about her, that she would have that kind of straight lines going down both sides of the leg. Whereas if you've got actually a nice curvy calf with a little bit of gentle muscle there, musculature, then that's what I like. It tends to grab my eye a little bit. And Christians watching this will say, oh, he's doing that again, he's encouraging people to lust after women again. Well, I suppose there's that's intrinsic to it. Sorry if that's going to offend you, but really it's to the praise of God that he knew how to make men and women attractive to each other. And certainly as far as eyesight is concerned, the man is attracted to the woman, not to every woman maybe, but certainly to certain aspects of the female. Personally, I don't look much at the breasts of a woman much. I don't pay attention to that very much, not unless there's something really in your face about them, and really they still don't get me all that heated. But a nice leg, beautiful hands, things like that, nice hair, a certainly nice round bottom. Those are the things which, in my case, they would command the attention in a way which, well, in my case, breasts don't. Simple as that. Even if somebody's, I might say, oh yes, she looks like she's got a very pleasant rack, etc. But I don't get heated about it. Whereas, if I see a woman with really good legs, I might not say anything, but I think, whew, yeah. So here we are. There's an interesting thing. It's interesting sometimes walking in the dark. You have to take care, because if you don't take care, you can end up in a situation where you get asked to suddenly jump off something like that. I don't think you can even see it. The level of lighting in Russia is not all that high, generally speaking. That's interesting, isn't it? That's actually lit up, that green crane. I think it is actually green coloured rather than a white one bathed in green light, because it's too regularly green all the way up and down it. Whew. I can just about see where I'm going, so it's not a big issue. What do I want to do here?